Hey folks, my name is Hako, and today I want to give my thoughts on the importance of separating the art from the artist, or perhaps in this case, the importance of actually recognizing what is the art and what is the artist. And in the case of acting and movies in general, the lines can get a bit blurry because there is many moving parts in the art that is the character you see on the screen. I've noticed that more often than not, the actors or actresses are being burdened with the blame and faults that actually has nothing to do with them, but instead lies with the responsibility of the directors, the writers, the producers, or even in some cases the CEOs. Though I'm not saying that these people are deserving of personal attacks either. People sometimes have a hard time discerning what's what, and the quickest and easiest route is to blame it on the actor or actress, for whom you have a name and a face for. I felt I had to make this video because I have been seeing a lot of hate, negativity, and quite frankly vile bile being spewed at the actress Morfydd, which portrayed the character of Galadriel in Amazon's The Rings of Power. Her character has been accused of being unlikable, spoiled, and outright nasty, with big YouTube news channels like The Quartering on a daily basis bashing Morfydd and every thumbnail depicting an edited and twisted face of her. First of all, I think this is just degrading. And second, I think it's an unfair assessment, and I'm going to claim that Morfydd bears little to no blame in the character's bad reception for some people. You might be of the assumption that actors and actresses has a big say in how their character is being played out, but that is rarely the case unless we're talking about the biggest names in the industry. In almost all cases, they are handed a script with their lines up for no negotiation and no debate, and also a description of how they should act out each line. Their own saying comes down to the delivery of said lines, and I honestly think that Morfydd knocked it out of the park in almost every scene. So notice, I'm not saying that the dialogue is a masterpiece, but I do think that in most cases the delivery of the dialogue was outstanding, and that is simply what the actress can affect. A bland set of dialogues and awkward lines is not the responsibility of the actress. That would be the writers, or any of the aforementioned positions above. So, what is my personal opinion of the series? Well, I enjoyed the first episode. I went in with little to no expectations, as I was not expecting great things from Amazon. But after watching the first episode, I was pleasantly surprised. I had problems with some of the casting, and I think some roles could have been filled with more suitable people. And no, this has nothing to do with skin color. But I was genuinely curious to see what would unfold in the coming episodes, but after each episode my interest grew thinner, and by episode 4 I had completely lost interest. As someone who has read all of Tolkien's books and enjoyed Peter Jackson's original trilogy in my childhood, I had my own idea what stories in Middle-earth should be like. And first and foremost, I think they should be epic. And that's a department I think Rings of Power was lacking in. I watched the final episodes more because of a sunk cost fallacy, rather than a genuine interest. And had it not been for Morfydd, I would probably not have finished the season. Personally, I think her performance in this series was outstanding. She had a gravitas that was severely lacking in scenes without her, and it was not mirrored by most of her fellow cast. And I don't think they could have picked a better actress to play the role that was given to her. That being said, I'm not saying Galadriel as a character was a masterpiece, but I'm not saying it was a bad character either. At the end of the day, it was the only character I was even faintly interested in. And I think she was played in a way that made it believable that in 5,000 years we'd end up with Kate Blanchett's Galadriel, even though these are two different adaptations and they should not be compared to the extent that they have been, in my opinion. I don't want this video to turn into a defense for the series as a whole, because I think it has major flaws, as does Peter Jackson's adaptation. Even though the original trilogy is among my favorite movies of all time, even my 11-year-old self walked out of the Return of the King theater with a partly sour taste in my mouth. The changes made, specifically to the Army of the Dead, was a deus ex machina of the scales of which I had never seen before. In the third movie, a big part of the screen time was spent in Rohan and focusing on Aragorn's persuasion of King Theoden to ride to Gondor's aid. Something which in hindsight was about the most cruel and gruesome thing that could have happened. A war-torn and savage Rohan lost most of its remaining fathers and brothers on the fields of Pelennor, only for ghosts to swarm in and end the war in one swift blow just minutes later. The entire point of Rohan and their contribution was made null by this fact. In the books, humankind is able to overcome and prevail by banding together and setting their differences and arguments aside and rallying against a common evil. In the movies, ghost people. There is a meme with King Theoden laying dying and speaking his last words to Eowyn. If I knew there was going to be ghost people, I would have waited 5 minutes. And don't even get me started on the Hobbit trilogy. I'm not a big fan of people flunging shit like they're monkeys in a zoo. So I think all form of hate being directed at actors and actresses should be condemned. And I'm not talking about being somewhat vocal about not liking a particular performance, but rather going to said actresses' Instagram page, Twitter, etc. and filling their photos with vile bile, or making degrading videos about them with horrible twisted faces on YouTube, for example. Not many were excited for this show, and I wish more people would simply not watch it if it didn't pique their interest, instead of attacking the cast. All the blame is being put on Amazon, but also remember that someone sold Amazon the rights to do this show, and became very rich in the process. The same group earlier this year sold the rights yet again for over $500 million. Morfydd Clark is not a big name in Hollywood, but she has made some outstanding movies. My personal favorite is Saint Maud. But she is a humble young girl born in my country of Sweden. When I started seeing the discourse surrounding her, I imagined myself in her shoes. When she, after what must have been a fierce competition, finally got the call from Amazon, and they told her that she had gotten the role. Gotten the role as Galadriel, the protagonist of the world's most expensive TV series, which also had the eyes of the world fixed on it, like the Eye of Sauron. She must have been overjoyed. She must have been so happy. Which family member do you reckon she called first to tell? They must have been so overjoyed. They must have been so happy. Now we fast forward a couple of years and she can't even post an Instagram post, whether it be a happy photo from production or something completely unrelated to it, without it filling up with absolute dogshit people. You don't have to like the series, but you have to treat the actors and actresses like human beings. And if that is too much to ask of you, then I ask you to at least shut up. And Morfydd is a good actress. Hell, she's an amazing one. If you couldn't tell by the Rings of Power, then I would strongly recommend you to give Saint Maud or the personal history of David Copperfield ago. But to stop myself from rambling on, I will call it here. This was my friendly reminder to everyone that we are all people and we all have our struggles. And right now, I think the world could do with a little more kindness and a little more respect. Thank you for listening. Until next time.